Hey, howdy. We're giving it one more good shot. The time before this was a false start because I got sidetracked by conversation and then had the worst John Gutter and the worst Pizzascape I've had in my life. So I'm resetting. And the run before that, unfortunately, this is actually the third run that I've done today, if you count the false start. The thing about that first run is that I was on decent pace. I don't think it would have broken a record, but it was like an interesting run in its own right. And at the very end, right before the escape sequence, instead of hitting the button to restart level, because it skips you having to go all the way down and see the crumbling tower of pizza splash art. Instead of hitting restart level, I hit exit level and had to do the entire boss fight over again. And I kind of just abandoned the run at that. I don't know what the time would have been before that, but I mean, after that it certainly would not have been a PB. Which is unfortunate, because that run was actually, if nothing else, that was a really fun run. And it was kind of a mediocre run, but I tried to do, oh god, that could have been bad. I tried a new strategy that I became aware of, great. A new strategy that I became aware of where you do one of the holes in golf to get a top-in, and then you use that spare top-in to skip a large part of the level in a refrigerator. And that just seems fun, so I'm gonna do that. Okay, also, this is also kind of a scuffed John Gutter, but I think I'm making it under 100 seconds, we'll see. Oop, now. Sad. It's under 2 minutes at least. But I don't know why, I have interesting conversations sometimes when I'm just talking aloud to myself. And the thing that came to mind was, I was talking about gaming peripherals. It's an odd discussion topic, but I was just thinking, I was around in the, I don't want to call it a golden age, but I suppose you could refer to it as a golden age if you have a lot of nostalgia for those kinds of things. Not just in terms of like just gaming, but I was around in, I mean, if you were born around the early aughts, then you might also have had this experience. 3D movies, which, frankly, one of the biggest rip-offs that I've ever seen. It's like, hey, what if we took this movie? What if we took this movie that's going to be like basically fine? We added a gimmick that took probably 10 minutes to add to the filter, and then we charged an extra like $10, maybe even $15 for it. Because like 3D movies were a decent chunk more expensive. 10 to $15 is a bit of a stretch, but they were more expensive, and it was not worth it at all. But you know, it was the reason why you went to see it is just for the uniqueness. You went to go see it because wouldn't it be cool to see a movie in 3D? Actually in 3D? None of that projection onto a screen nonsense. You're seeing this with both your eyes. But it was always that weird red and blue filter stuff, and the movies themselves were never that great. Like, 2 movies that come to mind that actually used that technology were Monsters vs. Aliens, which was basically fine. I have a soft spot for it because our family watches it way more than I feel like it deserves. and Spy Kids 3D Game Over, which that was its whole shtick, is that I think it only released in 3D. And the sort of conceit of a lot of those movies was that, like, they weren't the best, but they were designed around being 3D movies. The trouble is that, I mean, not only does it kind of take away from the rewatching experience 5-10 years in the future when you don't have that stuff on hand, you could also just watch a better movie. That's the thing. And that kind of logic extends to video games as well. Because the very next thing that came to mind is, as weird as it is to say, the entire Nintendo Wii. Because there are some games that didn't make heavy use of the Wii's motion controls, and those were the good ones. Most of the games did make heavy use as a marketing tool. Like, hey, it's the Wii, so we gotta have motion controls, right? People like motion controls, right? Survey says, not really. But it was, I'm sure Miyamoto had a big smile and a big check for any developers that were willing to deal with their new technology. Not to mention the fact that Nintendo was kind of treading water at this point in time, because the GameCube, for all intents and purposes, was a big fat failure, even though it had some of Nintendo's best games, ironically enough. Because just thinking about their arsenal, like Wind Waker, controversial upon its initial release, but I happen to think that Wind Waker is a great game. More so the remake than the original, but I digress. Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door was excellent. Sunshine, also kind of controversial, but I think it was a fine game. Pikmin, of course. Metroid Prime. There were a lot of really good standout Nintendo IPs that came out on the GameCube. The issue was always the console, and the fact that Nintendo was facing stiff competition with the likes of the Xbox and the PlayStation, or the PlayStation 2 more specifically, both becoming smash hits, and then, oh wait, freaking Melee and Kirby Air Ride too. Nintendo kind of sitting there like, yeah, isn't this cool? This console is like a lunchbox. It's got handles on it. Like, you need a little bit more than that to distinguish yourself in an actual competitive environment. Because for God knows how long, Nintendo had been operating as the de facto children's console, and I mean, there wasn't really much competition besides Sega. And then when Sega went belly up for a variety of reasons, Nintendo was top dog. The trouble is, those kids eventually grow up, and what happens when they do? They find things that are not Nintendo games. Oh God, I'll get something for Peppino on the way back. I think I might want to make both of them blue this time around. Yeah. Hate this level. Let it be known that I hate this level. But in terms of peripherals, I mean, I was talking about the PlayStation. The PlayStation Move and the Kinect also come to mind of like, yeah, this is kind of cool, but what good games are there that actually make use of it and aren't just, you know, gimmick games? Like, yeah, cool. it's a fine game, but you know, things come to mind like, how do you play this after the console has gone out of commission? And I know that's kind of a weird question, because I can't think of a single developer who has ever thought about emulation in their lives. At least not in a positive light. But it's a genuine question when it comes to gimmick products like that. Like, how do you, stuff like the PlayStation Move, how do you use the PlayStation Move in the modern day? I guess you just hook it up to the mouse, I guess, but you would have to have custom firmware for that shit. And that is not easy. Not to mention, there's no official support for emulation, obviously. So the developers of the emulators are gonna have to do that themselves, which is not easy, not at all. That being said, there are a select few titles that, like, though they do rely on gimmicks, I feel that they're really good games in their own right. One of them is Mario Super Sluggers. I happen to think that that game is amazing. Easily Nintendo's strongest sports game. And I mean, I was just talking about the GameCube, you wouldn't know it, but Super Sluggers is actually a direct sequel to Mario Superstar Baseball, which was a GameCube game. And I think the intent, just based on everything that I know about Super Sluggers, I think the intent was for Super Sluggers to also come out on the GameCube. There were a couple of cases like that. Super Paper Mario also comes to mind, of a game that was, like, you could kind of tell that Super Paper Mario was originally meant to be a GameCube game as well, because it was in the exact same engine. And you usually don't have that happen where there's, like, between two different generations of consoles, two sequels use the same engine. That happens with sequels that end up on the same console, like, I mean, the most obvious examples like Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask. But I don't know. I smell something fishy there. The other thing that makes me think that Super Sluggers was meant on GameCube is that it is, I'd say, like 50 to 60% of the characters are from Mario Sunshine, which is kind of weird, because as it happens, you know, what was the most recent Mario game to come out? Mario Galaxy. Are there Lumas in that game? No. That would be really funny if there were. This is before they started using, they started adding Rosalina to the cavalcade of, like, returning characters that they only ever use for sports games. Also, yes, I messed this fight up a little bit, but Pepperman is now even faster. If done perfectly, I can get it at like 115, basically. It's insane. This is probably gonna be closer to a 130. Oh, damn it. Okay, killing at 120 on the dot, it's still about as good as I was doing before I started doing the corner strats. Also, hang on. There we go. The Blues Brothers. Back to what I was saying before, though. Super Sluggers is just good, and it always surprised me because it relies so heavily on the Wii Remote to be, you know, to be a game. It's a baseball game. It's a baseball game that uses motion controls primarily as the means of control, and that is arguably the worst part about it is how hard it is to control where your swings go. In fact, I remember a particularly devilish. There's a sort of weird campaign mode, which, I mean, the campaign mode is actually really fun, if I remember correctly. The mini games were inside of that campaign mode were weird as hell, but it was fun. The one thing I remember is that recruiting Wiggler in that game was a pain in the ass because you had to swing so that the ball ended up in different parts of the outfield, which was really hard because of how imprecise the Wii remote was. I remember that one specifically being super tough. Now, I believe I said that there were two different games that really relied on peripherals and were actually kind of good. And if I didn't say that, I meant that there were two. There were exactly two. The second one did not immediately have peripherals at launch. It was added as DLC. Little Big Planet 2, actually. I feel like that game was... I think it was brilliant the way that it took advantage of the move stuff. Because Little Big Planet is the kind of game that is a brilliant template game. That you can just take Little Big Planet and apply it to whatever formula and whatever game mechanics that you want, and then just, you know, the DLC official levels are over, you give the tools to the players, and you go, okay, make something out of this. And by and large, they were really good at making DLCs. That was, I think, the game's strongest suit. Little Big Planet had some of the most consistently good DLCs of any game I've played. Hands down. Like, I can think off the top of my head that, like, the base campaign for Little Big Planet 1 and especially 2 were super solid. But I just think about the Metal Gear Solid pack, I think about the Pirates of the Caribbean pack in Little Big Planet 1, I think about, what else? I think about, like, the Muppets pack, and, what else? Obviously the Move pack from Little Big Planet 2. They were simply good. They were good DLCs. And the Move pack was one of the best. And I think part of that was because they didn't, I mean, they obviously used it as a main mechanic, but it was also just good outside of the fact that it was the Move pack. The music was surprisingly good. Like, I'll have to link the playlist in the description of all the Move pack music. It's really good, and also a good chunk of it is sequenced music. So not only was there this great music, the great music also introduced new instruments to the sort of MIDI file-esque sequencer that players could use when making their own songs, which was awesome. That is such a neat concept. But the music was good, the plot was surprisingly good, which I wasn't expecting. The gameplay was fun, everything was just, it was simply just good. I remember really, really liking it, and next chance I get when I have the ability to really play, to emulate Little Big Planet, which is gonna be kind of an arduous task because, you know, emulating DLCs is hard, but my plan is I kinda want to. And, you know, legal gray area, all that stuff. There is literally no way to play Little Big Planet anymore. Or there's no way to get those DLCs, rather. There is a way to play Little Big Planet 1, 2, 3, but all you get is the official campaign. All the DLCs are gone, particularly all the DLCs from Disney are double gone. Because they're gone because the multiplayer functionality of all three games has been shuttered, but on top of that, there was a time period before everything was fully shuttered where Disney removed all of their proprietary stuff. Which is a pain, because now there's no way to access all that awesome content. Hello. Which includes the Muppet pack, the Marvel stuff, so the Marvel Studio, there was, I believe, both a Marvel Studios and a Marvel Comics pack. Marvel Comics pack was from Little Big Planet 1. The Marvel Studios one I imagine was 2 or 3. But they were both really good. And you just cannot access them now for a variety of reasons. But I swear they're good. I'm trying to think of other games that actually used that technology that I can think of. Because like the only other thing that comes to mind is a game by the name of Deadman's Quest that used the PlayStation Move and was pretty clearly, it was like basically okay. Fair, kind of inoffensive, bordering on shovelware, but I thought it was cute enough when I initially played it. I never finished it, but I got decently far. Ah, shit. But I think that's the kind of thing that I want to do with this channel, more than anything. Because to all of you who came here because of one reason or another, because of the Pizza Tower stuff, because of Isaac, because of Yumetuki, I'm happy all of y'all are here. I think more than anything what I want to do is I want to introduce people to new things. Perhaps unknown or underrated things, but I like being a messenger. I like introducing people to cool stuff that they've never seen before. And that's part of the reason why I've liked doing Yumetuki so much, because I found it basically on my own. I don't think I've ever heard someone talk about Yumetuki before I got involved in the community. Hell, I barely heard people talk about Yumeniki. And it's a shame, because the game is beautiful. It's beautiful, and the community is awesome, and there's so much excellent art and music, and it's all free, and it's so good. It almost feels like I'm a con artist talking about all this shit, but it's just good. It is simply good. Game is good. And I like finding stuff like that. I like just, oh, by the way, this game exists. It's really good. No one talks about it. Let's change that. And I kind of do want to do more RPG Maker games, but I don't really want to limit myself to RPG Maker games at the same time. Because it's a weird sort of catch-22, that on one hand, I want to make content on games that are not popular, but on the other hand, for people to see my stuff, I need to make videos on stuff that's at least semi-popular. So it leads to an odd sort of situation where I make content on stuff like this, that's a really popular game that the YouTube algorithm seems to love, and then follow it up with something that no one has ever heard of, like Yumetuki or Harold Halibut or whatever else I got cooking. There's a sort of elaborate dance that I have to do to make sure that the YouTube algorithm doesn't catch on to the fact that I'm making content that is not super popular TikTok filter garbage. Ooh, that was cool. Let's go. I did not mean to do that, but that's the fun of this game, is that I don't control the noise controls me, and if I save some time accidentally, I will take it. Oh my god, that was embarrassing. Just do this. I'm surprised I still saw McPig. Something that's also funny is that I'm basically gonna be in this room, on this floor, basically alone. I think there's someone in the neighboring room on this dorm that is also senior, but I'm basically gonna be here alone. So I'm going to try to pump out as much content as I can. Realistically, of course. Like, if I end up accidentally shredding my voice, well, that just sucks then. But I'm gonna try my best to keep myself both healthy and active at the same time. It's a difficult balancing act to achieve, but I think I'll do it. Also, I already off of this, I don't know if this is going to be a PB for me. I guess we'll see. The plan right now is I want to try and do an alternate route that I saw, where you get one of the top-ins from golf. And then after you get the top-in from golf, you go and do refrigerator with the faster route. And I think it balances out. And I also just like doing refrigerator fast, so I'm completely fine with that. I'm also gonna try and do the up warp, but I don't know how the hell it works, so if I end up soft locking myself, I soft lock myself. I mean, now that I think about it, you want to talk about gimmick games. An entire generation of gimmick games was the Wii U. Which that was sort of the opposite problem as the GameCube, because the issue with the GameCube was that it had no real draw. The issue with the Wii U is that the draw was way too explicit. It was like, yeah, there's a whole ass tablet on this thing. And there's also no real, like, the Wii, you can use the Wii remotes, but you can also use this big, clunky tablet with a screen that can break, and they're really expensive to repair. And a lot of games straight up require that you have both the tablet and sometimes a second controller to also use. And finding Wii controllers is hard on the best of days. Much less multiple years later. And I was talking earlier about like ease of access of emulation. That must be a pain in the ass to emulate a game on the Wii U because you need... Oh wait, actually, hang on, let me do this. I've not tried this before. Yeah! Oh my god, that's so cool. I'm very, very happy that that works consistently. There's also a trick that you can do here where you leave the sausage down on that lower platform. I'm just not gonna do that, and I'm gonna do it the slow way because I cannot get it consistently. But I'm just thinking, what games did Nintendo make around that time period that relied on the Wii U, the Wii U tablet as a gimmick and were actually fun? I'm genuinely like racking my brain here. Because there was Star Fox Zero, which I did not play. Maybe I'll play it someday. I've kind of been thinking that I want to play the Star Fox series. Because I've always heard that they're They're good, and if not good, they're at least interesting games. Especially when it comes to the weird ones, like Adventures in Assault. I'm very curious about Adventures. Because I haven't played Star Fox Zero. I don't even remember if there was a mainline Mario game during the Wii U days. I don't think there was. I forgot to do the up warp. Oh well. There was that, there was, Smash Bros. Wii U didn't use the tablet at all, to my memory. I mean, you could play on it, but why? I still remember I was a psychopath, and when I played Wii U, when I played Smash Bros. For Wii U, I used a single sideways Wii remote. And I wasn't half bad, if I remember correctly. But, let's see. There was no Mario game. I don't believe there was a Metroid game. There was Star Fox Zero. Was there a Legend of Zelda game that made use of it? I mean, the Sheikah tablet from Breath of the Wild comes to mind, but it's the wrong console. Mario Maker, actually. There was, I guess there was a Mario game. Not really sure if it's a Mario game in the same capacity as something like Odyssey, though. So what else? Around that time, the Kirby games were, I think, the Kirby games around that time were locked in 3DS jail, right? Because it was Triple Deluxe and Robobot. Still haven't played Robobot. I have been meaning to. I've heard it's spectacular. I've heard it is it's an A-tier game with an A+ tier story. It's the main thing that I've heard. Like, it's pretty good without considering the story, and with considering the story, it is incredible. And hey, I've played games with good stories and worse gameplay. Remember, I did play Super Paper Mario, which I love that game. I think the story is absolutely beautiful. Gameplay in that game is really jank. I kind of want to replay that game at some point. Because it's so fun, but at the same time, it's jank. I can see why people really did not like that game when it first released. Because as good as the story is, oh my god, that gameplay is weird. And oftentimes the design of the levels just kind of sucks. Looking at you, World 3. Looking at you with the over there stare. Oh god, that was really close to something bad happening. Right, and there was a Mario Party adjacent game that came out, that being Mario Party 10, which was terrible, frankly. I hated that game. Because Mario Party 10, it was so bare bones apart from the one gimmick that they had going for them, which... Bowser Party, which was not fun. Like, I remember playing a round or two of it with my brother, and it was just not very good. It was an interesting concept, but there just wasn't enough meat to really appreciate it. Now, if they built it up a little bit more, and like added more features, or maybe just like more mini games, so that it wasn't just a constant 3v1 mini games with a twist. I would have liked it a little bit more, but it just felt kind of like going through the motions. in a new Super Mario Brothers kind of way. Of like, yeah, it's more Mario Party. It's different a little bit. It's just different enough that we can say that it's different, but not much beyond that. For the noise. But I mean, to be frank, I haven't played a game that I've hated in a long time. Like, outright regretted purchasing, regretted playing. Because there's a difference between regretting that you purchased something and regretting that you played it. Those are two very different emotions, because I have spent money on a game, played it for like 30 minutes, and then dropped it, and still not regretted buying it. There are very few games that I outright wish I didn't purchase. It's a rare thing. Like, one game that comes to mind is Yick. I don't care how many video essays you've seen, I don't care how much you try to convince me that game is garbage, and if you think that game is a hidden gem, try playing it. Like, oh my god. I don't care how many video essays you've seen about how interesting and postmodern and self-referential it is. Try playing through it. Play through all of it. Then come back to me. I don't care that the 1.4 update is supposedly gonna fix the game. I am never touching it again. It was horrendous to get through. And if you want to see more, you can watch me play through all of it. And I tried my best to give that game the benefit of the doubt, but it just kept... It was so horribly abrasive, above all else. It had this constant sort of mantra that the developers were like unrespected masters of their craft, and that the people, this, like, you know, the ambiguous them of people who vehemently hate their games and hate the developers and not want nothing more but to make them suffer. Like, yeah, shut up. Like, frankly, maybe you should fix the problems in your game before you start complaining about your fan base. Which, can you really call it a fan base if you're actively talking down to the people that you claim to be your fan base? I don't know. It's hard to say. But that game was abhorrent. It went on for way too long. The characters talked way too much, obviously. That's kind of the thing that it's known for. The writing was abysmal. The gameplay was slow as dirt. The bosses were atrocious, particularly so. They were either all scripted or they took an unbelievable amount of time. There's a certain boss pretty late in, and I mean, that narrows it down pretty nicely because there are a grand total of like 5 bosses in this game total in a JRPG. I don't care that it's supposed to be postmodern. Why does your RPG have 5 mandatory bosses in it? And all of them were slogs, every single one. The characters just do not do enough damage for how much of a sponge all of the enemies and all of the bosses are. So you're actively discouraged from going and grinding because grinding for XP is going to take hours. But if you don't grind, that late game boss that I mentioned took me an hour and a half of non-stop stun locking. And if I messed up at all, I would have had to do the entire fight all over again. It's a miracle I made it through that fight. Like, if I had failed more than like 2 or 3 times, I would have just completely given up. And again, I feel like I gave the game more respect than a lot of people do. And even then, it's such an assault on the senses. So yeah, I don't recommend Yick at all. Not even for the bit. Somewhere in the community posts, I have a like a write-up of my feelings on the game, and it's very virulent. I really, like, you can tell when I'm writing it that I did not enjoy the game at all. I kind of want to make a more formal write-up that's a little bit less whiny. Like, I thought it was pretty level-headed, but it was, I could do a little bit better. Maybe, like, talk about the game's positives and also its negatives rather than just the negatives, because, you know, the game has a non-zero amount of positive qualities. It's just that those positive qualities are overshadowed by how much of a horrible experience it is to play through it. And it makes me somewhat optimistic about the new campaign and all, whatever the hell that's gonna lead to. It's like, good for you. I'm not playing it. Like, I could be paid $1,000 and I still would not play through that game again. I'm done. Oop. Come on, dude. Down the hole. Like I said, you might be wondering why I even bothered with that. That's for refrigerator later. But I'm trying to think of other games that I genuinely just hated playing through. There's not a lot. One that comes to mind that I kind of disliked but wouldn't necessarily say that I hated was Ratchet & Clank Into the Nexus. Just because it was buggy as hell. And I played the PS3 version, which was a mistake. Had I known how buggy and laggy that game was, I would have played it on the PS4 version. But unfortunately, I didn't have that foresight, and I ended up soft locking in a history museum sort of area, and just completely dropped the game. Because I was kind of interested to see where the plot was going, but the game just didn't grip me. I really want to play Into the Nexus at some point, though, because not Into the Nexus, Rift Apart, because I've heard that Rift Apart is spectacular, and I am a sucker for Ratchet & Clank, so hell yeah. Also, I guess I'll do Doise now. This fight has the potential to go wrong, but I think I'll be fine. This fight is very strange. It's like, normally the noise has like, the first part of the fight basically has two phases. Like, the phase one has two sub-phases. And in the first phase, Noise will only do, like, the level 1 versions of the attacks, and in phase 2, he'll always do the level 2 version. For here, though, it's like shuffled around a bit. Like, he'll always do... God, that's consistent. Fuck that. For here, though, it's basically randomized. That he'll do both the level 1 and level 2 versions of all of his moves in a random order. It's really strange. I'm so glad that it's not required to have to P-rank this guy, because it's a pain. Especially the rocks, man. The rocks are so obnoxious. I can't even imagine P ranking this boss consistently. But you know what? I did it. That fight went well enough. I'm trying to think, what else? Okay, thank God. what other games did I actively not enjoy? The list is, again, the list is genuinely very small. Because I tend to have at least something good to say about most games that I play. Or at the very least, if I don't like a game, I just don't finish it. So it's rare to have that blend of a game that I didn't like, but also a game that I played to completion. Oh, that's another one, actually. Mario & Luigi Paper Jam. That is a game that I hated, but played to completion. Oh boy. That is a fun case. So, Paper Jam is a game that kind of got swept under the rug because it's sort of... I get the sense almost that people are afraid to talk bad about it because, you know, it's Alpha Dream. Alpha Dream is beloved for so many of the Mario & Luigi games being really good. Even Partners in Time, which is one of the lesser ones, still a great game. I keep it in the same sort of bucket as Super Paper Mario, that it has its moments where it's kind of iffy, but overall the story is great and it's a great game. Paper Jam has the problem where it tries way too hard to be a Mario game instead of a Mario & Luigi game, which feels weird to say out loud, but there's a sort of... like, up until that point, Mario & Luigi really liked just making whole new things. They had their own whole little universe to work with, and they worked with it a lot. Like, in the first game, they just introduce a whole ass kingdom. In the second game, they introduce an alien virus. In the third game, they introduce so much stuff. They have stuff that's working off of the first game. They have unique stuff. There's so much cool stuff that's purely Alpha Dream. Dream Team also. An entire new race of beings. And cool villains and everything. It's just cool. Again, Dream Team is one of the lesser ones, but it's still really good. Then Paper Jam comes along. Now, Paper Jam, at face value, Paper Jam is a collaboration between Mario & Luigi and Paper Mario. On the surface, that is literally the coolest thing you could have possibly asked for as a Mario RPG fan. Note that I say on the surface, because oh my god, this game's got problems. It was very clearly rushed. Because as you might be able to tell by the fact that, you know, the fact that Alpha Dream no longer exists, they were starting to tread water, and they were starting to tread water around the time that, a little bit after Dream Team released, because Dream Team did pretty well. The trouble is that Alpha Dream was not good at releasing games quickly. They would take a ton of time releasing a game, and then they would release it, and then they would go back to the grindstone to make another game that they put years and years into. That's really admirable, but it's also not great when it comes to keeping your doors open. And I know I sound very cynical and corporate when I'm talking like this, but I mean, unfortunately, you gotta feed your employees. And like, I feel like what Alpha Dream should have done is establish some sort of secondary studio so that they had intermittent titles in between the Mario & Luigi's, because the Mario & Luigi's made them a lot of money. Also, that is a really weird glitch. The Mario & Luigi series made them tons of money, but it's also all they had. So if they don't get those games out fast, and if they don't do well, the ship sinks. So reason number one that Paper Jam was kind of underbaked was because they were on a time crunch to get these games out before, you know, they couldn't get the game out. Reason number two, and this reason is a lot more speculative on my part. There seems to be a lot more influence from primary Nintendo in this one. What do I mean by influence? Well, from Paper Jam onwards, there was a sort of weird push to bring Mario and Luigi back into the fold, as it were, in the same sort of manner as Sticker Star. And I think that's part of the reason why is because this was already a good ways through the sort of transformation of Paper Mario into the weird sort of half Paper Mario, half its own thing series that we have now. Half Paper Mario, half Sticker Mario, if you will. And that sort of design philosophy infected Mario and Luigi. With the logic of like, oh, it's got brand identity, so it'll sell better, right? Oh, not really. Because the reason why people loved Mario and Luigi was because of how original it was. It wasn't just, oh, I'm doing terribly here. It's not just Mario, but again. But Paper Jam is just that. It's just, let's take these characters that were in Mario platformers and put them in an RPG. You would hope that the paper aspects made it more interesting, but that's the other problem. It really didn't. They did the bare minimum with the paper stuff. Paper Mario, I mean, naturally he was completely silent, so in terms of dialogue he added basically nothing besides, you know, making funny hand gestures every now and then. In terms of new characters, they went the Sticker Star route. All the characters were direct copies of characters from mainline Nintendo, and they had the exact same personality. So it was just a clone, like the story was just clones, basically. You had Peach and you had Paper Peach. You had Mario, you had Paper Mario. You had Bowser, you had Paper Bowser. What were their differences? Well, one was made of paper and the other was not. That's it. They had, like, marginally different abilities sometimes, besides the fact that they were made of paper. That's it. That's all you get. So, when it comes to boss fights, the best that you got was either you fight the real version, or you fight the paper version, or you fight both at the same time. And that was as creative as the bosses got. So that was the major reason, is just, it felt very bland. The other reason was that it was buggy as shit. Again, the game was very rushed. And with how buggy that game was, it was obvious that it was rushed, which is unfortunate. And the last main reason that I think it didn't do very well, and that I personally didn't like it, was that it did basically nothing with the fact that it was a crossover. Because, like, obviously I'm not asking for Count Bleck to be in Mario and Luigi. Like, that's, a lot of people seemed to want that, but that would have been kind of ridiculous, frankly. Because not only is Super Paper Mario meant to be a self-contained story, but he frankly just does not fit. None of the characters from Super Paper Mario fit in Mario and Luigi. Even in the sort of, like, universes collide kind of storyline. Well, okay, how about the characters from the other Paper Marios? That would have been great. They just didn't. All the characters are basically using the Sticker Star formula of characters of like, hey, what if this character was made of paper? What if there were a bunch of toads, and those were the only NPCs that you got to interact with in the sticker, that were made of stickers and made of paper? And that brings me to the last main reason why the game kind of sucked, is the toads. a large part of your progression through the game, especially when it comes to progressing in the story and getting new abilities, was you had to find toads a lot. And it dragged on so long that it was miserable making it through the game and unlocking everything, because you just had to do the same missions over and over again, just in different locations. Find 5 toads in this area. Fight enemies, and the enemies have toads that you need to bring to some central location. It was it was just such wasted potential, and I don't blame Alpha Dream for wasting that potential, because again, they were treading water. I'm very curious what my time is gonna be here, because I'm kind of losing time a little bit. Because I've been waffling on for most of this run and not really paying attention, but I'm doing decently well, I think. And I'm gonna make up a bit of the time loss that I have already with that faster refrigerator, which is coming up very soon. Oh no! No, 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 no! Ah, I made that mistake again. I swear, the last run that made it all the way to the final boss, I did remember. It's just that this time, like all the other times, I freaking forgot again. Man, the controls are very wonky for that. Okay. I need to get this quick. Come on. Come on. Please, please, just... There we go. Okay. That's better. So that still saved time. That still saved a good chunk of time. Okay, let's try something like this. There we go. Oh no, I bonked. No! I don't even have a super taunt. Okay, and I'm going to be a coward and I'm gonna eat Satan's choice because this area is kind of ridiculous without it. Not to mention the fact that I don't even have a super taunt to work with. I suppose I do now, but that's beyond the point. Oh god. That could have been bad. For what it's worth, Satan's choice is persistent between falling off. Thank goodness. That could be... That would have been kind of insane if it wasn't. Yeah, shit. It's 55 minutes already. I don't have the highest of hopes for my time here. I've been fumbling the bag a little bit. But we still got a run going. And I'll be damned if I stop the run because it's doing kind of bad. I am fine with boarding a run if I make it and then something happens that would make me lose like 10 minutes. Oh my god, did I just get... I just got hit by the second attack. That never happens. That doesn't even lose me time, that's just shameful. Man, that is a cool... That is my favorite part of the bomb, is that if you hit something with the bomb, that hitbox lingers for a long time. Hey, that was cool. Okay. Bum, bum. Oh god. Every day I'm grateful that they didn't keep in the old version of that chase. Alright. Now we get onto the hard part. Oh god. Good start. Great start. Phenomenal start. Oh my god. You. I gotta kill all those ghosts, because if I don't, they are going to hit me. That's just going to happen, because there's no other way to get around them. And I could tank through them if I wasn't playing swap mode, but because I'm playing swap mode, it would lose me a ton of time. Jeez. Oh god, I could have skipped it. No. If I'd known those bats were flying around, I would have tried to skip this part. Great. That's definitely what I meant to do. Thanks, game. I'm getting a little bit salty. Mainly because I'm stressed. You know how it goes. Things are just not working the way that I mean them to, really. But that's just how it be with Pizza Scare. I was already hemorrhaging time, and this level eats bad runs for breakfast. Terrible. Whatever. I'm trying to think of other games that I thoroughly did not enjoy, but I think that's basically it. Because there are games that I think have flaws, but also have redeemable qualities, like, let's see. Final Fantasy, The Four Heroes of Light. Very weird combat system, and it's very long, and it's very cryptic. You know, kind of in the way that a lot of JRPGs tend to be sometimes. But I'm very nostalgic for the music in that game. And I happen to think that it's a very fun game. Is it a good game? The jury's still out, but I think it's very fun. And hell, I was just talking about Super Paper Mario having some horrid gameplay at parts, but it's still fun. I still enjoy it. I still love the story of that game. I love the characters. The music is incredible. It's not your standard fare, but, you know, change isn't always a bad thing. Oh. Oh no, please. I didn't mean to super taunt there, but it kind of works. Noise, you slippery, slippery thing. Okay. Not gonna question it. It's still insane to me that this is one of the most fun levels in the game. like hands down. I don't know how they managed that, but the stealth level in a speed game, the stealth level is somehow the most fun level in the game for me. Like, this game is designed around going as blisteringly fast as you possibly can, and they made the stealth level fun. And they made the golf level, the golf level is not my favorite, but it's still so much better than so many other golf levels in games. Man, this game is great. Don't be doing that. Don't be doing that either. I'm overestimating the range in this thing. Oh god, that could have been bad. Yeah, this run is not beating any records, that's for sure. 106 coming out of Don't Make a Sound, and I haven't even started War yet. Whatever. I had fun and there was fun commentary, so I'm fine with uploading this. As long as I don't beef the menuing again. Also, I'm gonna level with you. I really have to take a piss, so that might also be part of the reason why I'm not really operating at peak performance here, but I'm gonna try my best. I've only got a few more minutes. Oh my god, just... Thank you. Just go fast. Again, not my finest showing, but I'm always happy to play this game, even if I don't do the best, because the game, again, game is just fun. Pizza Tower is simply a fun-ass game. And if I don't do the best, that's fine. I'm enjoying myself regardless. I really gotta iron out what rooms are faster as what character. I gotta like put them in a spreadsheet or something and just like run through it. Cause I think it would genuinely save a lot of time if I had that stuff down pat. Cause that's the one advantage that this run has to not just doing everything as the noise. The ability to change on the fly and do certain rooms a lot faster is genuinely really helpful for getting a better time. It's tricky to determine what rooms are actually better for Pepino versus noise. Because there are a lot of rooms where noise is just straight up better. Damn. Wasn't expecting to take damage there of all places. 109 going into the Pizza Face fight. I'm actually not sure how this is going to pan out. Because I'll be blunt that this is not my finest showing. But there's still a chance that I come out of this with a decent time. It may not be my PB, but it'll at least be like a little bit worse. Not a complete wash like I'm fearing it might be. It really just comes down to the RNG in this fight. Oh my god. How did I miss? It's like that is not a good start. But I can make it work. You. Okay, that could have been worse. That could have been a lot worse. Interestingly enough, I feel like the most fun challenge that I've encountered is optimizing the bosses. Because optimizing the levels is one thing, but the bosses are... I mean, the fact that they have a health bar makes things a lot more interesting. Having a health bar and fixed patterns means there's theoretically a lot of time to be saved if you know exactly what the boss is gonna do. Because I think of something like how I do the Pepperman fight, how I do the Vigilante fight, where I just stun lock him eternally. Like, the other bosses, if done optimally, are not that far off. Like, the only one that really doesn't go that far is Fake Pepino, and that's just because there's some of the phases it is damn near impossible to do quickly. You just have to wait out the animation. I'm sorry, Pepperman. The main improvement between last run and this run is how much better I am at kicking your ass. Yo! That was cool. Oh, weird. It still makes the circle even if Fake Pepino gets stunned? Actually, I did not know that. Okay, now Brain, remember, this isn't the boss that you can exit out of. You have to restart. Remember that, Brain? Okay. Thanks, Brain. There we go. Now just head through this and we're done. I look forward to this being the best escape of my life. And accidentally making back a bunch of time. Good start. Oh, what? That doesn't work? Damn. Add that to my list of things add that to my list of notes, I guess. I guess the bowls disappear once they go off screen. Oh, hello? I thought I got soft locked for a second. Because that has soft locked you in the past. Hey. Okay, I made it here. I made it to the ace time in under a minute, but I'm still over par. Sad. Oh well. I mean, this is still a great run, is the thing. Like, I'm holding myself to a high standard here. This is still way faster than most people are able to beat this game. And I'm happy with that. God. It was a pretty good escape until that point, but I forgot to swap to Pepino. Sorry, Pepperman. It's nothing personal, I just need to go fast over here. Alright. $118.10, that's like... Look, it's not my best. It's pretty obvious that it's not my best. But I had fun conversations, so I think it balances out. Hang on one moment. Alright. I don't mind it. I'm not publishing this. Not publishing this. I'm not uploading this to speedrun.com because I don't care about a jump cut. I mean, not my finest work? Again, not my finest work. I still had fun with it. And I talked about some interesting things along the way. That's all I got for now, though, I think. Thanks so much for watching.